So, what are some stocks that you should keep on your watch list for this upcoming week? So I'm gonna just go through like the whole list of stocks that you guys might want to add to your watch list. I'll start off with AMD, Salesforce, Taiwan Semi, Qualcomm, Nvidia, Alibaba, Visa, Mastercard, PayPal, Walt Disney, uh, I don't know how to say that one, but the ticker symbol is NVS, McDonald's, Nike, Lilly, Ellie, or ticker symbol LLY, Google, Apple, Amazon, and then Meta. Those are the stocks that I'm personally gonna keep an eye on for this upcoming week. And so starting off with Meta, right? So Meta has their yeah. So starting off with Meta, Meta has earnings on the 31st, right? And I don't think right now or trading Meta is a good idea since they're reporting earnings, right? And usually you never want to trade, a stock before its earnings. And so, me personally, if I were to get into Meta, a good personal entry point would be like somewhere around 437 if it reaches that level. Or if it touches 425, that's another good entry point. All right, so the next stock is Amazon. Same with Amazon. Amazon is reporting not, yeah, I don't think they're reporting their earnings this week. I don't know, but they're reporting their earnings on August 1st, right? And so, me personally, I would wait until they report earnings. And if they don't do good on earnings, if they decide, and if Amazon decides to like dump, what personal entry level or a personal entry that I would get into Amazon would be somewhere around the 180. I'm sorry, the 170 level. And if it decides to break the 180-day moving average, I would get around where I would get around the 165. Uh, I'm sorry, guys. I would get around the 165 area or level of Amazon. But I'm just gonna wait and see what happens. I'm just gonna observe what Amazon decides to do. And if Amazon doesn't decide to touch those, doesn't if Amazon doesn't decide to touch those levels, I'll just move on to the next stock. And so Apple, the same thing, they're reporting their earnings on August 1st. I feel like Apple could crash a little further, but who knows, right? Um, right now they're like in a super uptrend right now. And so I would personally wait for August 1st to see what happens. And, if Apple decides to touch, the 50-day moving average, which is 206, that's a good entry point. If it decides to touch, the 180-day moving average or the 200-day moving average, so if it reaches, 188 or 187, that's a good entry point right there. But we will see what happens. Obviously, I want to keep an eye on Apple, and I'm going to wait until, earnings, go by. Another stock, the next stock is Google. They're having their earnings on the 23rd, so they're having their earnings on the 23rd. You can see that Google is trying to maintain itself around the 50-day moving average, but it looks like it might break it. And you can see that the 9-day moving average is about to cross over the 20-day moving average. So that could mean that possibly Google could see a little bit of downside. And depending on their earnings, we could possibly see Google touching, the 180 the 180-day moving average, or possibly the 200-day moving average. And if it touches, those moving averages, that's a personal good entry point right there. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We'll see what happens with Google. Okay, the next stock is Lilly, ticker symbol LLY. So Lilly right now, it's trying to maintain itself above the 50-day moving average. Let me see when their earnings are. Okay, so they have earnings on August 8th. Um, I feel like Lilly, where it's at right now at the 50-day moving average, is a good personal entry point right there. And if you want to wait until August 8th and see how they do on earnings, if you're patient enough, uh, we could possibly see, Lilly touching the 180-day moving average or the 200-day moving average, which are another, two good entry points right there too as well. That is if you're patient enough, right? But yeah, that is Lilly right there for you. Okay, so the next stock is Nike. So Nike right now is they reported their earnings already on 6/28. Oh no, I'm sorry. 6/27. They dumped right now it's below all the moving averages right now, but I feel like a good entry point, or I feel like a personal good entry point would be around somewhere around the 71.50 area, if not the 72 area. So anywhere around 71 or 72 is a good entry point, I personally feel like. So we will see what happens with Nike. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, so the next uh, stock that I want to talk about is McDonald's. Right now, McDonald's is below the 200 and the 180-day moving average. But you can see that McDonald's has been hovering around the 247 area, and I think they were. Oh, they're reporting earnings on the 29th. So, me personally, I would wait to see what happens with earnings, and if McDonald's decides to touch somewhere around the 247 level, I would personally get into McDonald's somewhere around 247. And then on the weekly, if this McDonald's decides to keep crashing down, I would get somewhere around the two. I'm sorry. I would personally get into McDonald's somewhere around the 250 area or the 245 area. If they decide not to do good on earnings. But we will see what happens after McDonald's reports earnings. And so the next stock is NVS. NVS is a little volatile, somewhat. Yeah, they reported earnings. I'm not sure if they did good or bad, but seeing that's already broken the 9, the 20-day moving average, we could possibly see maybe NVS touch the 50-day moving average. So I personally feel like if, you know, NVS decides to respond to accept the 50-day moving average as confirmation, then we could see NVS bouncing, back to all-time highs where it was originally at. But yeah, uh, I'll definitely keep an eye on NVS. Let's see what happens. The next stock is Disney. Disney has their earnings on August 7th. And honestly, right now, Disney's just been getting pummeled right now. It broke all the moving averages, but I feel like where it's at right now, anywhere around the 95 or the 96 level is a good entry point, a personal good entry point. Uh, but we will see what happens, and if Disney decides to keep crashing down, if they report bad earnings or whatever, right? I feel like another personal good entry point would be around the 90 level area or the 89 level area. But we will ultimately see what happens with, Disney. The next stock is PayPal. PayPal has just been having like a really like ugly year, but you can see that on the graph. It's just been maintaining itself around the somewhere around the 56 level area. And so right now, PayPal is at the it's at 59. So I personally feel like a good entry point would be around the 59 level area, and somewhere around 58 is another good entry point, and then 57 is another good entry point if you were to get into PayPal. But we will see what happens. PayPal has their earnings. It says either 7/31 through uh 8/5, August 5th. But we will see what happens with PayPal. I feel like right now where PayPal is at is a good entry point. And Mastercard right now, I feel like a personal good entry point with Mastercard would be uh, once it touches the 180-day moving average. I feel like that's a personal good entry point. Um, and if Mastercard decides to you know go past the 180-day moving average, I feel like the 200-day moving average is another good entry point, so around the 437 level area. And you can see that possibly if Mastercard decides to crash down and touch the 200-day moving average, we could see like an inverse head and shoulders pattern, and possibly, Mastercard could reverse to the upside if that pattern decides to, uh, if it decides to like let Mastercard reverse. But we will see what happens. Mastercard is reporting their earnings on 7/31, so we will see what happens to Mastercard after earnings. Visa is the same thing right now. It looks like it's already formed a inverse head and shoulders pattern, and they have earnings on the 23rd. So we will see what happens after Visa opens on Monday. And I feel like maybe, possibly Visa could reverse to the upside. But we will see what happens. We will see what happens. All right. So the next stock is Alibaba. So right now, Alibaba is on the 20-day moving average. So where it's at right now, I feel like it's a good entry point. Now, if Alibaba decides to crash down a little further, I feel like the 180-day moving average is another good entry point. So if it touches 74.12, it's a good entry point. Now, let's say if Alibaba decides to crash down a little bit further, I feel like the 72 or the 71 level area is a good entry point. But yeah, and they're reporting their earnings on August 8th through August 12th. So one of those two dates they're reporting their earnings. But we will see what happens. And the next stock is Nvidia. Right now, Nvidia is so they're reporting their earnings on August 28th. So personally, I feel like Nvidia is a good play. So it gives you enough time to like. Um, I feel like if Nvidia decides to touch the 50-day moving average, then we could possibly see Nvidia reverse to the upside. That is if Nvidia decides to let the 50-day moving average accept the 50-day moving average as confirmation as a reversal to the upside. But we will see what happens. But I will definitely keep my eye mostly on Nvidia and see what happens, because a short-term trade would be good since they're depending their earnings are till August 28th. So it gives you a little bit of time to, if you want to trade NVIDIA. But yeah, and then apart from that, it's hovering around the 118 level area. So yeah, and yeah, I feel like 118, and if you know NVIDIA decides to crash down to the 116 level area, I feel like that's another good entry point to enter into NVIDIA. All right, the next stock is Qualcomm. Honestly, Qualcomm, they're reporting their earnings. I feel like they still have a little bit to the downside. I feel like if Qualcomm decides to crash down to the 180-day moving average, I feel like that's a good entry point. Now, if it decides to break the 180-day moving average, I feel like the 200-day moving average is another good entry point. But we will see what happens. I would personally wait just until earnings to see what happens. And yeah, that's pretty much it with Qualcomm. Okay, the next stock is TSM. They're report. No, they don't. Where's their earnings? Oh, they already reported their earnings. Okay, TSM. I feel like where they're at right now, is a good entry point. So where it's at the 50-day moving average, if it maintains itself above the 50-day moving average, I feel like that's a personal good entry point to enter into Taiwan semi. And so right now, I feel like the 165 or the 165 or 166 level area is a good entry point to get into TSM. Eventually, tech is gonna come back. It's just a little cool off that right now tech is having. Tech, I like sector rotation happens in the market. So healthcare might be doing good right now. Healthcare later on might not be doing good. Uh, you know, the tech sector might be doing good right now. The tech sector later on might not be doing so good right now. Just like right now, the tech sector is not doing so good right now, but eventually, it will rotate, and it'll have its green days eventually. So yeah, let's see what happens with TSM. All right. The next stock is Salesforce. Right now, Salesforce is around. I feel like a personal good entry point is around the 247 area, if not the 245 uh, area. And I feel like if CRM decides to crash down a little further to the downside, and I feel like the 244 area would be another good entry point. Now, if CRM decides to keep crashing down, I would personally wait until it gets to the 227 or the 228 level area. And then again, if CRM decides to crash down a little bit further, I feel like 211 or 215 would be another good entry point to get into CRM. And they're having their earnings on August 28th through September 2nd. Either one of those 2 days, they're having their earnings. Last stock is AMD. AMD, I feel like right now is personally it's a good entry point to get in. But they have their earnings upcoming on the 30th of this month. So personally, if I were to get into AMD, I would just get into a small position where it's at right now. And if earnings do well, good, I'd exit out the trade. But if AMD decides to not report so good earnings and decides to crash down a little bit further, I feel like another good entry point would be around the 142 area or the 145 area. That all depends on their earnings, obviously, but we will see what happens. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We will see what happens with all of these stocks, and so just so you guys can keep an eye on these stocks for this upcoming week. There's a lot of people that don't tell you like, oh, you gotta, look out for stocks. I'm like, yeah, but which ones, right? And so obviously, I feel like Out of all of these, I would keep my eye on the most would be TSM, NVIDIA, Salesforce, and AMD. I would want to say, yeah, yeah. I think those are the only four stocks I would keep my eye on the most for this upcoming week. And yeah, Alibaba's good. I, yeah, okay. AMD, CRM, TSM, Nvidia, Alibaba, Mastercard, and Visa would probably be my most viewed stocks for this upcoming week to see how they do. But other than that, if you guys want to, add these stocks to your watch list, you're more than welcome to take a screenshot of it. So I'll go over it again. Meta, Amazon, Apple, Google, Lilly, Nike, McDonald's, Novaritis, Walt Disney, PayPal, MasterCard, Visa, Alibaba, Nvidia, Qualcomm, Taiwan, Salesforce, and AMD. As always, this is not financial advice. This is just for educational purposes, and I just want to share my stocks that I'll keep an eye on for this week. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you guys want to sign up with Webull, you can sign up with my Webull link in the description below. As always, this is not financial advice. And as always, take care, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, take care. Bye.